Right, and welcome back. And to shed light on our topic of tonight, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Mohamed Hegazy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Mona.
Happy Ramadan to you and your beloved family.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
Thank you. And let me start with this. I'm not starting with the visit of the Foreign Minister until I start with Egypt's commitment to the African continent and to the welfare of the African states and the African people. And how was this translated into deeds in the past period?
In relation to the visit of Sameh Shukri, Egypt-Africa relations are very important, not only because of the Renaissance Dam dispute, but in bilateral level, all the countries that will be visited by Mr. Sameh Shukri are countries that is linked with Egypt with many ties, being it political, economic, and cultural affinity. Of course, Egypt over the past years have spent and invested a lot in Africa in all fields, and I'm sure that this visit culminates also an important drive towards the continent. But what is important now is to discuss and to shed light on the outcome of the Renaissance Dam negotiation, blocked by the Ethiopian rigid position that is now threatening peace and security in East Africa, one of the most important and adjacent regions to the passageways for oil and international trade. So the instability in this region will reach out to all, not only to Egypt and Sudan. So what is important is to inform our African brothers, particularly those countries that are included in this tour, are the members of the political bureau of the current African chairmanship. Visiting Kenya yesterday and meeting Uhuru Kenyatta, delivering messages from President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to his brother Kenyatta was important to inform African leaders about the current status and the efforts Egypt exerted to reach out to a final binding legal agreement that will transfer the current deadlock into an opportunity for the benefit of the three ribarian countries of the Blue Nile.
Right. Ambassador Hegazy, before we continue on, let me take here your reading to the keenness of our leadership to inform all the African brothers of the situation and how matters are developing and put them in the picture. How do you view the keenness of the leadership to do that? How do you view the keenness of the leadership to involve international community at large? We are aware that that Egypt has already sent to the UN Security Council, has raised the issue to the Security Council, has already asked for the mediation of the United States, the United Nations, the European Union, and definitely the African Union, which is there from the very beginning. How do you view the keenness of Egypt to take all those parties into this issue?
Thank you very much, Mona, for this question. Definitely what is said by Ethiopia, that the African mediation is the only way forward. Egypt wants to tell our African brothers that we have given the African drive almost 200 days under the auspices of South Africa. President Ramaphosa have spent almost 200 days trying to reach out to parties and to conclude a binding agreement, but because of the rigid position, inflexible stance of Ethiopia, things were not successful. President Tshisekedi of Congo have tried his luck on the 4th and 5th of April, but the same position of Ethiopia have made this important African efforts unsuccessful. So the most important about this African tour is to put the political bureau of the African Union, the countries, 5 countries members, and the rapporteur, which is South Africa, into the light of the details in order so that they understand that it is not Egypt that is blocking the African choice. The Ethiopian have led the position and the negotiation under the auspices of the African Union affiliate, so rendering and for leading to a presidency, the South African and the Congolese, to fail is because of the current situation of Ethiopia, and that has to be said to our African brothers. Besides, both Kenya and the Comor Islands are members of the Security Council on non-permanent seats of the Council, and the Council should and will play a very important role in the coming few weeks, bearing in mind that the situation now is a situation which Egypt sees as a threat to the peace and security in Africa, and if a country, a member of the United Nations, saw a threat to peace and security in any region, can call the mechanism which is in charge of the peace and security in the international organization, which is the Security Council, to be convened and discuss the matter. And don't forget that referring the Renaissance Dam negotiation to the African auspices was made by the Security Council.
Yes.
So if the efforts exerted now towards our African, Arab brothers and our international partners did not yield fruits, then we will take it further to the Security Council. This internal and external communication is essential so that our partners understand that there is one party who is leading the region to a confrontation, which, as said by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, will affect everyone. As I said also, the East African and the Horn of Africa are not far from the international maritime and trade lines, as well as the international oil passageway. So we need to be prudent and careful not to allow a country unilaterally to cause damage to its neighbors, as international law stipulates in regards to international rivers, that a shared responsibility and a shared development can yield a benefit to all. But unilateral actions, as it is the case of Ethiopia in its threat to the second refill of the dam, will cause damage to African peace and security. And for that reason, I think what Egypt is currently undertaking is a very responsible position in respect to our African brothers, in respect to our international partners. Sergei Lavrov was in Cairo last week, and Russia definitely can play as a responsible party to international affairs its role, and I'm sure that communication with the American administration, who have toured the region recently, can also bring some support to the negotiation. But what is important is that our brothers in Ethiopia and the Ethiopian leadership should understand that if there is a damage in this relations, no one will benefit. Ethiopia will not benefit from the effort it has exerted to build the dam. A dam which was not consulted with Egypt, which did not respect all the technical norms required. However, we were not at all against the first refill or the second refill or even the dam itself, but all what we are calling for is a very legitimate binding agreement, a legal agreement that governs the international water course, because in water issues, a binding agreement is a known norm that will safeguard the interest of the three parties. Otherwise, no one will accept a unilateral act by one party, and the current situation is not a situation which requires only exchange of information, but putting this information into a legal binding document.
Right. Ambassador Hegazy, yes, we are not against any kind of anything that would hinder the interests of any state or that goes against the interests of any state, that is for sure. However, the issue of the dam is a little bit disputed here. But let me here take what you said. From what you said, and definitely you are reiterating here and quoting President Sisi and what he said, that this matter could destabilize the whole region, the whole continent, and maybe the world at large. And it would really hurt the peace and security, at least, of Africa, which Egypt has been always committed to protecting them always. Maybe people would not really understand, what does this mean? What does this, or how would such a matter destabilize the peace and security of the whole continent, and that would spread even to the world at large? How is that?
Well, Mona, as I said, the Horn of Africa is a crucial strategic geopolitical location where international trade and international oil supplies are passing through the Red Sea. And this conflict, if it ignited, no one knows what repercussions will occur. The second most important is that there is like 230 international rivers. If we allowed a breach in international relations, a breach in dealing with international water courses, to allow upper riparians to imply or apply their strategy to prevent water from reaching down to downstream countries, that will create a precedent that can be followed by others. Enough with Turkey and its position in regards to the Euphrates and Digla rivers, Israel as well. So if we added what the Ethiopian will do, too many upper riparians in different rivers might follow the same. So it will be a jungle, no respect to international law. The international water courses has been governed by the UN Convention 1997 for non-navigational water courses, and that has to be respected. Besides, there is Helsinki rules that will definitely respect the historical rights and the current uses of the countries which have built its civilization, not of yesterday, but for centuries on the Nile sources. Besides, we have also, to be fair, Ethiopia has the right to develop, but not to harm both Sudan and Egypt. Add to that, Mona, that Ethiopia itself has 12 other rivers, and it has a precipitation level of 962 billion cubic meters of water. So it has like 90% of its geography green, while Egypt has only 6% of its geography in green. Means that what Ethiopia is trying to achieve is water hegemony that will not be accepted by Egypt. And as President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi put it, no one will touch a drop from Egypt water, because the current allocation is even short than what Egypt needs for development. We only enjoying 55 to 60 billion cubic meters, while our needs is 110 billion cubic meters. So we require our brothers in Ethiopia to put all those factors and to delay the second refill till we reach a legally binding agreement. Trying to impose unilaterally their viewpoint is against international legality. At the same time, it is against the framework agreement reached by the three countries in Khartoum in March 2015, in Article 5, no refill unless we reach a joint agreement for water filling and operation of the Renaissance Dam. So
many articles were included, Ambassador Hegazy, that were not really made or applied. But if I may turn here to Egypt and Africa. And during the past period, particularly during the past few years, 6-7 years, Egypt has witnessed a kind of quantum leap in relations with Africa. And we have been putting Africa as a priority file in our diplomacy policy, propagating Africa, working for the African interests from every part. Egypt has always been exerting its utmost efforts in order to achieve the peace and security of Africa. We have seen its role in Libya. We've seen its role in the Silence of Guns initiative. We've seen its participation for forces, for peacekeeping forces in Africa. We have seen lots and lots of Egypt's efforts. How do you find Egypt's contribution to Africa? How is Egypt working for the African continent at large, and how is it mobilizing all its elements in order to fulfill the aspiration of the African people?
Mona, let me agree with you that Egypt has definitely developed a very important African drive in the past few years, out of its conviction that through our cooperation we can achieve a lot, and all the Egyptian successful stories have been transferred to our African brothers, being it in the infrastructure levels and initiatives, as well as in the health and the educational dimensions. Egypt have brought all the initiatives it has carried locally to our African brothers and sisters. Besides, Egypt was an instrumental party in creating the African Free Trade Agreement, the Continental African Free Trade Agreement, which is one of the most significant steps towards one Africa, the dream of our great leaders, Nasser, Lumumba, Nkrumah, Nyerere, and others. This efforts by our founder fathers has now become a reality. Egypt was instrumental in leading the African continent towards the continental FTA, which will be a great step towards the dream of one Africa. The second most important role Egypt has played over the years is to represent the continent in international arena, in climate change negotiation, in the trade and
the free trade agreement, yes.
Trade agreements, and as well as in the international groupings like the G20, the G7, and others. so that we have represented the viewpoint of Africa all over, and we have introduced also solutions to the illegal immigrations, not only through imposing security measures as many European countries were seeking, but through the call for investment so that we rehabilitate the livelihood of our people in their own countries so that no one will seek opportunities elsewhere. Besides, also it will curtail the drafting of our youngsters into the terrorist groups, as well as it will open chances for our displaced. As you know, we have illegal immigration, and we have 28 million displaced because of drought, because of local fights and disputes. So we have 28 million Africans displaced in their continent. So we need investments. We need to trade freely and justice with others. We need debt reliefs, and I'm sure, Mona, that a view should be given to all those issues, particularly the issue of African debts in the post-COVID situation, because our economies are suffering, our trade is suffering, and our capability are limited, and we need the partnership to be shown by the international community and our historical partners in Europe and the United States.
Yes. So in just few words, all what we need is peace and stability in order to be to achieve all this. Ambassador Mohamed Hegazy, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us and for your input. Now we turn to a second report on Egypt and Tunisia cooperating in endeavors. We have seen the Tunisian president coming to Egypt, visiting Egypt and staying for 3 days upon the invitation of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and that takes definitely our relations with Tunisia, part of Shukri's tour, African tour, definitely to another era or arena of cooperation. Let's watch the report.